Hello and welcome back. It is July 5th and we are back for the MLB DFS Slate breakdown. We got a nice 11 gamer today. Hope all of you guys had a great 4th and enjoyed celebrating. Today we are back to business. Let's get it done. Let's make some money. Now before we do, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to all our videos. It helps us out a ton. Allows us to keep giving out content for free. And we hope we are able to keep doing that. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Also, if you are not already, come join us at LineStar. It's only $29.99. Gets you access to all of our props, all of our DFS. It also gets you involved in the chat, which has helped many people kind of solidify their process and figure out how to start winning some money. Now, let's get into the fun. We're going to start by going over the perfect lineups and winning lineups on both DraftKings and FanDuel. And then we will get into today's pitchers and their ownership and the stacks. All right, so yesterday's main slate on DraftKings, we had Sears and Musgrove were the two pitchers. Musgrove just had a great day, so you gotta love that. And then we had a 2-2-2 stack. So 2 Padres, 2 Pirates, 2 Dodgers were in the perfect lineup. So pretty heavily stacked there. And then as far as the actual winning lineup, once again, it was Musgrove and Sears. And then we had 4-man Cleveland, 2-man Atlanta, and 2 one-offs, one being Detroit, and Mookie Betts for the Dodgers. So nice lineup. And Hurls, who was the winner here, actually got first and second. So his first lineup compared to the third place was 15 points better. Second one, a solid 5 points better. So congrats to him. He absolutely nailed it yesterday. And that was a solid lineup, man. Good work. Now let's get into the FanDuel perfect lineup here. And since the game already started today, I do have to go back one period. And I should also let you know now that if you are not already a member of LineStar, but you want to check it out and see what we have to offer, all of these older periods that we have, you can view. So you can come in and, look at the slate to start figuring out a process or how to use LineStar without actually paying for it. It's just all the old data that we have, but all of the old stuff is free to use. So it is a great way to kind of just get your foot in the door and start understanding LineStar itself. All right, so the perfect lineup, we got Musgrove, a 3-man Padre stack and a 2-man Dodger stack. Got it done yesterday. And then the winning lineup on FanDuel was Musgrove and 4-man Padre stack. Got it done in a 2-man Atlanta. So very similar, just slightly different in that it was 2-man Dodgers versus 2-man Braves for the perfect here. But ridiculous. Got it. He won the 20K. Congrats, dude. Huge come up. And I love to see people winning, man. This is a fun game, and we got to celebrate every now and then when we do win. So hopefully one of you listeners here are the ones that win very soon. Now let's get into today's slate. So we got 11 gamer. Nothing that I've seen so far really worried me weather-wise. So we can just jump into it without too much of an overview here. Now I'll get my ugly face out of the way. All right, today's slate. So Pablo Lopez coming in at the highest owned. He should. This is by far the best situation. At least I believe it is. He's versus Kansas City, who's not a great offense. He has got a good umpire. Kansas City striking out at 25%. They have a low WOBA, low ISO versus righties. All in all, it's a very good situation for Pablo Lopez, who's just been great lately. 2.39 FIP over his last 5, a 31% K rate. And really, it's much better than his last 20 start number, but he's still super good over the last 20. 3.3 FIP, 29% K rate. I mean, I'll take that all day. 28% combined K rate, real good here. If you want to fade him due to the ownership, the reason I would maybe do it is, one, he's allowing a ton of fly balls. But with that, I should make sure to let you know that they're not very hard hit. Only 19% hard hit balls. But it is mid-80s or so in Minnesota today, so maybe the ball does fly a little bit easier. But the other thing is that in 31 plate attempts, the Royals have hit him well. It is a pretty small sample size. It looks like they got to him earlier this year. So they've faced him twice this year, and 5.1 innings the first time with no earned runs and 8 Ks. 6 innings the second time and 6 earned run and 7 Ks. So both games, real solid K totals. It's just that one game, he let some runs, and I don't know exact conditions for that day or what happened, but, they got to him a little bit. I wouldn't personally take that much into this 31 plate attempts, but do with that what you will. LineStar did like it with a 21% or 21 point projection. Next, we got Lance Lynn, 8,400. He's a little cheap. LineStar doesn't really like him. 13.4 fantasy projection, and wind's blowing out here today. Toronto's a good offense, striking out 21%, but solid WOBA, solid ISO. Lance Lynn also, look, FIP of almost 5 over his last 20, 4.64 over his last 5. K rate has been decent, and that combined K rate is real solid today. But, following the chalk here is hard for me to do. I think Lynn's kind of a shaky pitcher, and if everybody's doing it, I may have to jump off this bandwagon. Understand why you'd want to, though. The price isn't, that high. Next, we got Bobby Miller versus the Pirates. He is at home. Projection 16.83, so LineStar likes him much more than Lynn. He's also a little less owned. He's been good lately. He doesn't quite have the strikeout upside as Lynn, but overall he's been a much better pitcher. 3.78 FIP over his last 5. So far in his career, 3.29 FIP in the major leagues. 21%, almost 22% K rate. So he looks good, and all the StatCast data looks good. Like the Dodgers are very good with young pitching, and it looks like they have another very good young pitcher here. So I don't mind going this way. This Pirates offense can be decent, but they can also go pretty cold. So I don't mind going Bobby Miller there. Next, we got Seth Lugo, 22% owned, almost a 15-point projection here. This Angels offense, just without Trout, probably without Rendon, and we don't know if Ohtani's going to play today, is just way worse. And we have to take that into consideration when making lineups today. Look, they're striking out 23% versus righties. They do have a decent WOBA and decent ISO, but I think those numbers are really much lower. The other thing to bring in is that Lugo hasn't been as good at home. 21% less fantasy points at home. I don't love Lugo, but you can absolutely make a case for him. He's been fairly good this year. 3.64 FIP over his last 20. 2.94 over his last 5. Goes with 22% K rate. The combined K rate is 23%. He's really not in a bad spot for his salary. Alex Cobb coming next, 14% owned. Cobb's a pretty good pitcher, has some nice upside for his price. It is against a fairly good Marlins offense, though. They do strike out a lot versus righties, though. The other thing is that Cobb is way better at home. So plus 34% more fantasy points at home. And if you see his last 3 starts were all away. Great one versus Baltimore at home. Poor one on the road. good start on the road, but pretty much all of his big games have been at home, and the ones away have been his down games. So, he could absolutely do it at semi-low ownership here in a good pitcher park. So I don't mind it with their strikeout rate. Alec Marsh is a hard no for me. This Royals offense isn't that great, but I just don't think Marsh is very good. He's cheap, but I think there's other places you can go. Justin Steele, this guy has been unbelievable. 2.32 FIP over his last 5, 2.63 over his last 20. His last 20 K rate is 25%. The combined K rate is solid at 24%. Milwaukee's offense versus lefties just isn't that good. Under 300 WOBA and 26% strikeout rate. I think that Justin Steele, very low owned, is very interesting today. StatCast data looks good. He makes a lot of ground balls happen. I really like Steele today. Barrios is fine. Don't love him. Don't hate him. I wanted to bring up Tommy Malone here. He's only 4K on DraftKings. He went 82 pitches his last start. Oh, sorry, that was in April. But I think he's interesting just at his price in an okay matchup due to the fact the Giants strike out 27% versus lefties. So I think he's interesting. Do have to look a little more to see what his pitch limit will be. I personally have not seen yet, but that's one thing that I would look into before starting him. Make sure, he's going to go 80 plus pitches. Outside of that, there's nothing really that I love down low. I would say that I think Graham Ashcroft is way too cheap at 6,100. He hasn't been a great pitcher lately, but he's shown us some upside, and he pitched really well last time, and he now gets a Nationals offense that isn't very good, and Graham Ashcroft is way better on the road than at home. 53% more fantasy points while away. So I think it's really interesting, and don't mind him as super low owned, super cheap. We know he's going to pitch, as many pitches as he possibly can. All right, now let's get over to FanDuel here. Now, Pablo Lopez, as I said, I far and away think he's probably the best option here. Highest upside and probably highest floor. Lance Lynn next. Alec Marsh is getting, some love here too, and I just do not get it whatsoever. I think Cobb is much more interesting than Marsh, even at point adjusted here. Bobby Miller is pretty expensive on FanDuel, but fairly interesting. Seth Lugo, you could do it. Justin Steele, 9,700, I think is a very good price here for him, and nobody's going there. So I think that is one that is very, very interesting. All right, now let's jump into some stacks. All right, our highest own is the Twins versus Alec Marsh. I totally agree with this one. Look, Marsh hasn't been good in the MLB so far. Super small sample size, but he wasn't a great pitcher in the minors. Allows 1.5 home runs per 9 in the minors. So in the majors, I would expect that to go up to 1.9, maybe 2, and that's a situation where guys are kind of launching off him. So I really like that. Royals also just traded Chapman, so their bullpen got a little bit worse. Definitely think you could do worse than going with a twin stack. Obviously, Braves at this point are just every night you could stack them. Mets look decent. Tommy Henry's not a great pitcher. 5.4 FIP over his last 5 and 20. Dodgers, I like this Dodger stacks. Look, Beto's been okay, 3.4 FIP, but his ERA is close to 5. His WHIP is high. He's likely going to let some base runners on, and the Dodgers could kill you if they're doing that. Cincinnati versus Josiah Gray. Josiah Gray has been kind of sneaky good this year, limiting runs. His ERA has been held in check, but his FIP is still above 4. And we know in the past he does give a lot of home runs up. So you could do worse than going Cincinnati. All right, so now our highest projected lineup is the Braves. No surprise. We got Cincinnati there, got the Mets. Boston versus John Gray. John Gray has not been the guy that he was last year. 4.5 FIP over his last 20, 3.8 over his last 5. He looks like he is in a decent spot. Texas is an interesting one. This offense, as we know, has been one of the best in the game. Brayan Bello has been extremely good lately, though. 2.43 FIP over his last 5, 3.4 over his last 20. Really like him as a young prospect, and it's kind of putting it together finally. Value-wise, we got Pittsburgh versus Bobby Miller. We got the Royals versus Pablo Lopez. And we have the Twins. As you guys know, Twins is definitely my favorite value one with Alec Marsh. And we got Yankees coming in here a little bit, which is interesting. Dean Kramer's not a great pitcher. 6.34 FIP over his last 5.09 over his last 20. He's really interesting. You could do worse than going to the White Sox. We know Jose Barrios has blow-up games, so maybe today is one. And then ceiling-wise, Braves, Reds, all over it. Over the last 22 games, nobody in baseball has won more games than the Reds and the Braves. So I think that's very interesting. This Padres team has been hitting lately. Put up 8 runs yesterday versus, or I think it was 8 versus Ohtani. Ohtani was 5 of those. Patrick Sandoval's been a pretty solid pitcher, but this Padre team's hitting, man. I wouldn't want to face them right now. So that's a quick one today. We got 11 games. I think it's going to be a fun slate. A lot of different ways to go. Pitching is kind of meh, but then there's still not super obvious great hitting spots. So, it's going to be an interesting slate. Figure out the way you want to attack it and make it happen, man. Good luck to everybody. We will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.